WNBA, conflict of interest. Collier, Gumake, is it a simple conflict of interest or is it a criminal act according to the U.S. labor codes? We'll talk about that and more today on the Money Mike Syndicated Radio podcast. Folks, I wanted to come back on and go over the conflict of interest. Now, when you do deal in something like that, and there's a prohibition of conflict of interest, and really it gets involved whenever you're doing anything that's going to involve the labor officers, and the labor leaders. Now, the only way that this could not be considered a conflict of interest would be that Collier and Agumake went to the union members, signed off that yes, we understand that you're representing your own league and it will present somewhat of a conflict of interest. If that hasn't been done, then you're going to have major problems. And here's what I see, and I've already mentioned about Caitlin Clark kind of signing on, doing her own thing. Here's what you got, folks. The WNBA and the WNBA Players Association, as this went to the left, is probably looking to do a deal right away. Let's go over conflict of interest, and let's really walk through it. And I want to share with you what I've discovered, and then you can make your own evaluation going forward. A union leader's conflict of interest can be a criminal act, and that's the question mark we have here, particularly when it involves receiving or giving or engaging in financial transactions that violate their fiduciary duty to the union. While a conflict of interest is not automatically a crime, certain actions such as receiving payments from an employer is a violation of the Taft-Hartley Act, or embezzling funds or illegal punishable by law. Now, nobody's embezzling funds, but here's where I go a little to the left. When Gumake signed that contract in the middle of a 30-day extension, was there a personal gain? Yes, it was. Did her personal gain represent the entire union to where they may also benefit from that? No, because there's only 66 players that you can sign, and it may be even less of WNBA players. Now, here's some examples, and I want to kind of go over them, and then you guys are going to make your own decision whether you feel there is a violation, there is a criminal act, because I'm telling you, I believe the WNBA Players Association and the WNBA and the NBA is going to want to get this deal done as soon as possible, because if this conflict of interest keeps building, what you're going to get hit with is a cease and desist order. That's why the WNBA is like, let's move forward, let's draft, let's do everything that we're going to do, because if you get hit with a cease and desist, it's going to shut everything down. Receiving illegal payments, accepting money or other things of value from an employer or someone acting on their behalf is a crime under the Taft-Hartley. Self-dealing. A union officer engaging in business transactions with the union, buying or selling for personal gain is prohibited from doing so. Filing false report. A union officer can face criminal charges for filing false financial reports with the government. There's a lot of numbers that are floating back and forth around. A lot of numbers that the WNBA has given. And now we're looking at it as how's that information going to be looked at. What constitutes a conflict of interest? A conflict of interest occurs when a union officer, has a personal or financial interest that conflicts with the duty to the union. I repeat that. A personal or financial gain. Collier, Unrivaled League. Agumake, Project B League. A conflict of interest occurs when a union officer has a personal or a financial interest that conflicts with the duty of the union. Does the Unrivaled League conflict with the WNBA? Yes. Does Project B conflict with the WNBA? Yes. And does it conflict with each other because you have two union representatives that have went separate ways? One is Project B and one is a rival, which they're both initially going to compete against each other, so they're both negotiating within their own personal gain. The officer's actions must conflict with their fiduciary obligation to represent the interests of the union members. You cannot represent the union members who are with the WNBA Players Association if you're focused on signing contracts with Unrival and you're focused on signing contracts with Project B and gaining an equity stake in the middle of a negotiation. Not only are you in the middle of a negotiation, you're in the middle of an extension. So you're doing these actions throughout the extension. Folks, that's not in the best interest of the union members who are the players in the WNBA. If there is an appearance of conflict, even the appearance of conflict can be problematic and may lead to legal and ethical issues if not managed properly. Well, it's not being managed because you got Candace Parker's over here with the Gumake, and they are getting investors and trying to shape up a league, okay? That looks like a definite appearance of conflict when the union union vice president and president of the leader who's in there negotiating for you signs with another league. Folks, that's personal gain. Okay, that's personal gain, and not every union member was able to take advantage or have an opportunity. The opportunity you went in there, you're leading into a contract negotiation with the WNBA, and you're trying to close. Now, you're trying to go over there and talk about other players that you're pulling out the league to go sign. Folks, it's going to get real interesting, and I tell you, I repeat, you better hurry, and get this deal done, because here's what's going to happen. Adam Silver's got already briefed Congress, sent that in. They're going to want to talk to them. If you do not have this under control, there will be a cease and desist order on the negotiations. You're going to have to pull out two people that are sitting in there, Gumake, and also you're going to have to pull out Collier, unless all WNBA players have signed off and said, yes, we're okay with you doing this. Let's talk about that. Give me a moment. Now, when you get into it and you look at it and you say, for a union leader, again, I'll repeat, a conflict of interest is not always a criminal act, but it is illegal when it breaches the fiduciary duties they owe to the union and its members. And that in everybody's public opinion now, we all see it, right? Federal laws such as Labor Management Reporting and Disclosure Act establish strict standards for conduct for union officials, and violating these duties can lead to civil or criminal penalties. What does that mean? It basically means if you went in there and you secured your bag of $2 million and you did it without putting the union members to have the equal opportunity, then now you need to pay a fine for that. You need to pay for that because you did not negotiate in good faith. You did not negotiate with equity as the primary duty, and that's a major. Legal standards for union officials. Again, it gets into fiduciary because there's money, and I'll tell you, when you look at it, it comes down to how much have you been paid? How much have you been paid, right? And if the ladies are signing a contract, did you get a signing bonus? How much you're getting paid, and how much are you getting paid to sway the other members to go over to Project B? How much are you getting paid to sway the other members and sway other people now that people are backed out on Rival? What conversation are you having and what negotiation and how much you're getting paid to do that, right? Prohibited financial interests. Legal standards for union officials. Prohibit for financial regulations, okay, remember this, you're going to get involved into it under the Labor Management Reporting and Disclosure Act, LMRDA, when you look that up, folks. Regulation under LMRDA explicitly ban union officials from any other financial or personal interest that conflicts with the fiduciary obligation. Prohibited actions include buying from or selling to any other action that you're doing, using union funds, we're not worried about that. Conflicts can escalate to criminal acts if they involve such illegal acts. When you get involved right in here, you're talking about union funds, okay, that you're actually collecting and what's going to happen there. So there's no embezzlement or anybody's taking money, Bribery means you're accepting payments or gifts in exchange for favorable treatment. What are you getting to promote this league? What are you getting to sign with Project B? I go over to Collier. What are you getting out of this to go over there and get more players or have players to sign in on Rival? What are you getting to going over there to visit Camilla Harris? What are you getting out of this? Is it personal gain? Personal gain is I've got you who's actually signed and get an equity stake in Project B. Folks, that's a personal gain. She did not stop and say, okay, let me go back and talk to my union members. Let's present it to the members and see how many of the union members would like to participate in Project B. No, you did an isolated incident, you made the decision, and now you're saying not only have you signed, others haven't signed, but all the members, all the union members did not get the same equal opportunity to hear what was going on in Project B. That's called personal gain, folks. How conflict becomes a crime. A conflict of interest is own and often ethical violation that is addressed with civil penalties, such as removal from the office. Now, you can get where the WNBA and the WNBA players could say, I want new representation. That could freeze this entire thing, folks. I'm telling you, by God's grace, they are going to rush to get this done because there's so many violations here. And by the time you start digging in and briefing Congress on how all this came together and who came up short, did the players come up short? Because you took a deal for $2 million, right? So you represented yourself. I'm going to take that deal. Now I'm going to go back and say, I've got my money. Now I'm going to negotiate fairly for the other WNBA players, right? For example, a union official who owns a company, right, unrivaled, Project B, right, equity stake, is in conflict of interest if the union signs a contract with that company. Think about that, folks. Think about that. You're in conflict of interest, right? You're a union official and you're representing another league and you're getting personal gain and you're getting paid from that, right? If the official discloses the conflict and the union governing body approves it. Now, here's where you're going to get into a little bit deep because you got a situation here, and folks, this is going to get a little deep here. Hang tight. The WNBA has a governing body, right? It's made up of owners. The governing body, people are sitting on that board. Here's the deal. When you actually approve this, and the governing body has approved this, but you didn't approve it with your members, so now you've got, okay, head on, head button, what's going on, and it's really interesting because not one player has really stood up, or maybe one player has and said, hey, I'm not comfortable here, right? But you got this situation, and then the governing body, who you got Kathy Egerbert, all the members who are sitting on there, the WNBA owners, they're just having a little kumbaya. They're breaking all kind of laws, but they're just having a little kumbaya. Like, well, is this okay with you, Jackson? Is this okay over here? Yeah, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. But you forgot to ask your union members. That's who you represent. You're not representing the WNBA governing body. So when you did that, now the disclosure of every union member signed off on this, that's a different story. If they didn't, then you can end up with a cease and desist, right? Because you're not in the best interest. So they got to enclose it. However, if union officials uses their position to secretly steer a lucrative no-bid contract to their company, it could be prosecuted as an embezzlement, wire fraud, or other federal crimes. Okay, folks, you got to really follow this because here's the enforcement of the union misconduct. And when you start digging into this, you're going to see a lot of things that the WNBA and the Players Union and what they've done. Boy, they're way out there. They're way out there on this. Enforcement of union misconduct. Several government agencies work to investigate and prosecute union-related crimes. One of them are the Department of Labor, Office of Inspector General. OIG investigate criminal misconduct, labor racketeering, and union includes involving embezzlement and conflicts of interest. The Department of Justice is also The DOJ handles criminal prosecutions for union corruption. If the UAW scandal, for instance, resulted in multiple convictions against unions who receive illegal payments or gift from employer, that's where you're going to be acting real cautiously now. Because if you got a gift, right, from Project B, all right, but you're over here and you got the union members, they didn't get the same gift. This is going to get a little ugly, folks. Federal Labor Relations Authority, FLRA, for federal employees unions. FLAR sets standards for conduct that prohibit officers from having business or financial interests that conflict with the duty to the union members. Folks, whew, you know what? I took a look at this, and Money Mike can tell you all things are possible to those who believe. You know, these women, my heart pours out for you. And I just want to say, folks, after looking at the U.S. labor laws and looking at union laws and looking at union laws that create conflict of interest, and when I mentioned a long time ago, this is like Jimmy Hoffa. I mentioned that to you guys. It's like Hoffa, right? Because you got guys taking kickbacks and sign a contract in the middle of an extension. The league's not even going to start for a year or two, right? But if you sign that contract and you got a personal gain and you're trying to offset that with the league because you're really in competition with the league, it's only so many players to go, well, that's not true. I think you can replace all the players. Keep on playing, wouldn't miss a beat. Money Mike's telling you, want to bring this home, dig down a little deeper, do your little bit of research, go ahead and look at the U.S. labor laws and just start. You can make it simple. Right? Union representative conflict of interest, is it a criminal act? It actually is. And I think the WNBA Players Association and the WNBA governing body and the NBA, they want to close this deal as fast as they can, because if they don't, and it reaches up there to the Department of Justice, you're going to get hit with a cease and desist order, right? Because this is standing out like a sore thumb, and I don't know how in the world would they allow something like this to happen. The people who are negotiating this contract figured they're the best to do it. They couldn't close it the last time. This time they went bizarre on it. And where is it going to end? Money Mike will always tell you, all things are possible to those who believe. And I'm just praying on this one, folks, because, you know, one thing I'll tell you is I always look at the flip side, and the flip side said there's some criminal laws being broken here. And I'm not there. I'm not the one. I'm not the Department of Justice. But I'm telling you, looking at it from an observer standpoint and what has taken place and how this is all coming together, unless the WNBA players signed off explicitly saying, we understand that you are owners of Unrivaled. We understand that you were going to sign it. Well, you didn't, because you signed that contract, but you should have went back to the union members and said, I'm going to sign this contract for Project B. Does anyone object or anyone has anything, while I'm actually being your union leader, right? Because they want to know, yes, it's okay. How do we get an opportunity where you don't? That's called personal gain, folks. Money Mike Syndicated Podcast. We're going to try to keep getting better and better each and every time. All things are possible to those who believe. We're going to keep you posted. This story's got legs. My bet, I say in 7 days, you need the WNBA and the Players Union and everybody. They're gonna try to close a contract, because if they don't, they're gonna get hit with a cease and desist order until they figure out what the heck is going on in the WNBA. All things are possible to those who believe. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast.